New York, 1884, a city in turmoil, marked by increasing industrialization and social contrasts. In the heart of the city, a 12-year-old boy named Samuel Clark walks through the busy streets, lost in his own thoughts. Iron and glass buildings are rising like giants around him, while the sound of ox carts and hurried conversations echoes through the dirty streets. Samuel has no memory of his past. The only thing he knows is that he was found in an orphanage, a nameless child with no history. His eyes are piercing, but his mind is an enigma. He was adopted by a middle-class couple, the Clarks, who treat him like a son, but he feels a disconnect from his own identity. Samuel's life is a routine of simple tasks, like studying at school and helping his adoptive father, Richard Clark, with chores at the family's small furniture factory. But something inside Samuel always seems to be missing. He feels an irresistible attraction to an old wall clock in his father's office. Whenever he gets close to it, a strange feeling washes over him, as if he were being pulled by something beyond time and reason. Richard Clark, his adoptive father, is a strict and work-oriented man. He believes that the key to Samuel's future lies in effort and discipline. "The world has no mercy on anyone, Samuel," he often says in a deep voice, while teaching his son how to sand and polish wood. "You need to be strong and not let the past control you. Only the present matters." But for Samuel, the past seems to carry an invisible weight. At night, he lies on his simple bed and closes his eyes, trying to remember something, anything that connects him to himself. He feels as if he is being pulled by an invisible force, a force that prevents him from fully understanding his own story. On a particularly cold night, Samuel wakes from a nightmare. He sees flashes of a dark-haired woman with sad eyes, someone who seems familiar, but whom he can't quite place. The image of a tall, serious man appears in his mind soon after, but he doesn't know who they are. It's as if fragments of a forgotten story are trying to emerge from somewhere deep within his mind. The following morning, Samuel tries to push away the unsettling thoughts and focuses on the work his father gives him. But the feeling that something is wrong persists. He senses there's more to his life, something he's destined to discover but can't yet access. The day passes slowly, and Samuel finds himself once again in front of the wall clock. He watches the hands move slowly, as if marking something important, something he must understand. With an inexplicable impulse, he opens the clock face and finds a piece of old paper hidden there. His fingers tremble as he unrolls the paper, but upon reading it, his eyes widen in shock. The words written are familiar, but he cannot comprehend their meaning. Have you ever had the feeling that something in your past was hidden, waiting to be discovered? What do you think Samuel found in the watch? Share your theories in the comments. With the piece of paper found in the watch, Samuel feels a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. He keeps the note a secret, not daring to tell anyone about his discovery. He feels that somehow this is a milestone in his life, a key that can unlock what is lost in his memory. But what would he do with this key? Meanwhile, life at home continues as usual. His adoptive mother, Margaret Clark, is a kind and caring woman, always concerned about Samuel's well-being. She insists that he be more sociable, inviting friends over for lunch and offering him the comfort of home that he has always had. However, Samuel feels distant, as if he doesn't fully belong there, as if he were a spectator in his own life. At school, Samuel stands out as an intelligent student, but his lack of social interaction makes him feel isolated. He prefers to spend his time in the small garden behind the school, where the flowers bloom slowly, as if the world around him were calmer and quieter than the constant hustle and bustle of the city. There, he gets lost in his own thoughts, trying to piece together the fragments of his memory, but nothing seems to fit. One day, while walking down a busy street in downtown New York, Samuel sees something that makes him stop. High on a building, a sign catches his eye. Clark and Sons. Fine Furniture. It was the name of his father's furniture factory, but the image of the sign makes him think of something he can't explain. The building, though imposing, seems to distort before his eyes. A strange feeling envelops him, as if that name, that sign, were more important to him than he ever imagined. It is at this moment that he hears a familiar voice calling him by name. It was his friend, Jacob, a boy his age who attends the same school. Jacob is one of those few friends Samuel has, although he doesn't feel completely comfortable with him. Jacob is the opposite of Samuel, extroverted and always ready to have fun. But Samuel can't shake the feeling that there's something about Jacob that he can't understand. "Hey, Samuel, where are you going? Let's play soccer later," Jacob asks, interrupting the boy's thoughts. Samuel forced a smile and shook his head. "Not today, Jacob. I have to go home." Jacob frowned, surprised by the response, but quickly turned away, heading towards his group of friends. Samuel watched him for a moment before returning his attention to the factory sign. Something there was unsettling him, as if the answer to what he was looking for was right before his eyes, but he couldn't see it. At home, as night falls and the Clark family gathers around the table for dinner, Samuel tries to focus on what's in front of him, but his mind is elsewhere. He watches the face of his father, Richard Clark, who is lost in his own thoughts as he cuts the meat. Richard has always been a reserved man, not given to displays of affection, but Samuel knows he cares about him. However, there's something about his father that Samuel can't understand. Richard Clark never talks about the past, about Samuel's history before his adoption. Suddenly, something inside Samuel awakens. He puts down his cutlery with a brusque movement, causing everyone at the table to look at him. His mother watches him with concern, and his father, though disconcerted, says nothing. "I need to know who I am," Samuel says, his words laden with a sincerity he had never shown before. Samuel's parents exchange glances, and the tension in the room is palpable. Richard Clark, calmly and composedly, places his fork on his plate and looks at his son. "You're my son, Samuel. Nothing else matters." But Samuel isn't sure about that. He senses that something else is at stake. The feeling that there's a deep, hidden secret in his story torments him more and more. What do you think Samuel is starting to discover about himself? Do you believe the Clarks know something he hasn't realized yet? Leave your opinion in the comments. In the following days, Samuel's life seems to be in a constant whirlwind of doubt. He begins to question his true identity, which motivates him to seek more clues about his past. With each new day, the feeling that something is missing intensifies. He begins to investigate the Clark family's history, questioning where he truly fits into their timeline. But his questions are often met with evasive answers. One night, Samuel decides to act. He goes to his father's office, where the wall clock is, and begins to examine everything more closely. The tension is palpable, as he feels he is about to discover something that will change his life forever. He opens the clock face again, but this time he finds something else. Instead of the piece of paper, there is a neatly folded letter, seemingly very old. His hands tremble as he opens it. The words written on the letter leave him speechless. "Samuel Clark is not your name. Your real name is Thomas Radcliffe. You were found on the New York docks in 1872, and the person truly responsible for your adoption never wanted you to know the truth." Samuel feels a shiver run down his spine as he reads the letter more than once, trying to process what is before his eyes. Thomas Radcliffe? This revelation makes his mind spin. Who could he be, and why would someone want to hide their true identity? He looks around, feeling that the office, his house, the whole city now seems strange to him. The following morning, Samuel decides to confront his parents. He finds them in the kitchen, where his mother is preparing breakfast and his father is reading the newspaper. The aroma of coffee seems to have no effect on him. All he can think about is the letter and the words that changed his life forever. "I need to talk to you," Samuel says, his voice firm, but filled with an inexplicable fear. Margaret looks at him, surprised. Richard, for his part, doesn't look up from his newspaper. "What happened, son?" Margaret asks, worried. "I know what's going on," Samuel says, keeping his eyes fixed on his father's face. "I know who I am. My name isn't Samuel Clarke. I am Thomas Radcliffe." The silence that follows is thick. Samuel feels a pressure in his chest, as if the truth is about to be revealed, but he doesn't know what to expect. His father, Richard, finally puts the newspaper aside and stares at Samuel with a blank look. "You don't know what you're saying," Richard says, with a disturbing calm. "You're my son. Samuel Clarke is your name. Nothing else matters." But Samuel no longer believes that. He feels Richard's words are empty, like an attempt to prevent the truth from coming out. He needs answers, and more than that, he needs freedom. From that moment on, Samuel begins to distance himself emotionally from the family that raised him. He spends more time alone, visiting the city library, where he searches for any information about Thomas Radcliffe or about what might have happened in 1872. Each passing day, he feels he is getting closer to discovering the truth, but he also feels that the closer he gets, the more dangerous the discoveries become. One day, while browsing through old newspapers, he comes across a story that seems relevant. The headline catches his attention: "The Mysterious Disappearance of Thomas Radcliffe, New York Magnate, 1872. The article discusses the mysterious disappearance of Thomas Radcliffe, a wealthy and influential young man from the city who supposedly died in an accident but whose body was never found. Samuel's mind is in shock. What does this mean for him? Is he the long-lost son of a rich man, or is it a terrible coincidence? The pieces are beginning to fall into place, but something is still missing. That night, he woke with a sense of urgency, as if someone were calling him. He picked up the piece of paper found in the clock and read it again, trying to find something he might have missed before. Then, an idea came to him, and with it, an unusual determination. Samuel knew what he needed to do now. What do you think Samuel will do with his new discoveries? Do you believe he's seeking a fresh start, or simply trying to understand his past? Share your theories in the comments. With the discovery of Thomas Radcliffe's history and the revelation that he could be his real father, Samuel feels an irresistible urge to unravel the mystery surrounding his origins. But at the same time, the pressure of his current life begins to weigh on him. He can't simply abandon the life he's built with the Clarkes, even though he feels that something is deeply wrong. Samuel's inner dilemma grows stronger each day. He begins to question his loyalty to the family that took him in. Margaret and Richard Clarke have always treated him well, but he feels that a large part of his identity has been stolen from them, or worse, deliberately hidden. The internal struggle is devastating, as he cannot understand how something so big and profound was kept secret for so long. As Samuel delves deeper into his investigations, he begins to realize that the search for truth is isolating him even further. He spends long hours in the library, researching the life of Thomas Radcliffe, and soon begins to drift away from his few friends, such as Jacob, who notices the change in Samuel. "You've been acting strangely, Samuel. You're acting like you're running away from something," Jacob says one afternoon, as the two walk through the city streets. "What's going on with you?" Samuel hesitates for a moment, unsure whether he should tell Jacob about his discoveries, but he feels he needs to be honest. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not Samuel Clarke. My name is Thomas Radcliffe." Jacob stares at him, incredulous. "Are you serious? What do you mean by that? Are you crazy?" Samuel tries to explain what he discovered, but Jacob can't grasp the magnitude of the situation. "You must be mistaken, Samuel. They are your parents. They love you. They adopted you." Samuel walks away, leaving Jacob behind. He feels more isolated than ever. His search for the truth separates him from the people he has always considered his family and friends, and yet he cannot stop. Something inside him compels him to keep going, no matter the cost. As the days go by, Samuel begins to realize that his investigation is attracting unwanted attention. He notices unknown men watching his house, and newspapers begin publishing rumors about the disappearance of Thomas Radcliffe. The name of his real father is increasingly being linked to the mystery surrounding the disappearance of his fortune. The pieces begin to fall into place in a frightening way, and Samuel feels he is being watched. But it is when he begins to find old documents belonging to his real father that he discovers something even more disturbing. In one of his findings, there is a letter that reveals the true reason for Thomas Radcliffe's disappearance. He had become involved in illicit business and was being pursued by powerful people who wanted him dead. The letter also speaks of an attempt to hide Radcliffe's identity, which would explain why he was presumed dead. Now, Samuel's mission becomes even more dangerous. He realizes that he is not only searching for his true identity, but also being pursued by those who want to ensure that his father's secret dies with him. At home, tensions with his parents grow. Richard Clark begins asking questions about where Samuel has been spending so much time, and Margaret, with a worried expression, tells him that he has been acting very strangely. She tries, unsuccessfully, to convince Samuel to abandon his search and move on with his life. "Samuel, why are you hurting yourself like this?" she asks, her eyes welling up with tears. "We are your family. It doesn't matter where you came from. What matters is where you are now." But Samuel can't accept that. He needs to know the truth, and this brings him to a breaking point with his adoptive parents. That day, he decides he can no longer live with the lies. He must find out what happened to Thomas Radcliffe and his true identity, even if it costs him everything he knows. What do you think Samuel should do now? Continue his search, even knowing he's putting everything at risk? Or should he try to forget his past and stay with the Clarks? Tell us in the comments what you would do. The following morning, Samuel wakes with a sense of urgency unlike anything he's ever experienced. Something in his chest tells him that the moment of truth is much closer than he imagines. The pieces of the puzzle are beginning to fall into place, but at the same time, he knows he's about to make a decision that could change his life forever. He can no longer live with the uncertainty. He needs to know what happened to his real father, Thomas Radcliffe. He heads to the address indicated in the letter, an old building in downtown New York. The address, written in faded ink, is marked on the envelope he found in his father's office. The building, which may once have been grand, now seems abandoned, its walls covered in graffiti and its windows dusty. Samuel feels the weight of history in that place, and his heart races as he approaches the entrance. Inside, everything is quiet, with the sound of his footsteps echoing off the empty walls. He walks cautiously through the corridors, sensing he is being watched, although there is no one in sight. At the end of a narrow corridor, he finds a half-open door. Samuel hesitates for a moment before pushing it open forcefully. Inside, a man sits at a table, with an unlit cigar in an ashtray and stacks of papers scattered around. When Samuel enters, the man looks up, as if he had been expecting him. "You've finally arrived," the man says, in a deep, authoritative voice. Samuel doesn't know what to think. "Who are you? What do you know about my father?" The man smiles enigmatically. "I know more than you think, Thomas Radcliffe. I knew you'd come here sooner or later." The use of his real name makes Samuel's blood boil. "How do you know my name? Who are you?" The man slowly gets up and walks to an old wooden table where he begins rummaging in a drawer. He takes out a yellowed photograph and places it on the table. "This photo was taken in 1872, shortly before your father disappeared. He knew that the only way to save you and keep you safe was to disappear, but he couldn't escape the people who wanted him dead. Samuel picks up the photo, his hands trembling. In the image, he sees his real father, Thomas Radcliffe, next to a woman with a sad expression. They both seem to be at some kind of ceremony, with anxious and worried looks. The man next to his father is a stranger to him, but something about him seems familiar. Samuel tries to connect the dots, but something doesn't make sense. "What happened to him? Where is my father?" Samuel asks, his voice choked with emotion. The man observes Samuel for a moment before answering. "Your father was betrayed, Thomas. The people he trusted deceived him, and he had to make a difficult decision. Either he disappeared forever and kept you safe, or he died trying to fight the enemies who hunted him. He chose the first option, but he left a series of clues for you. The truth was never for you until you were ready to face it." Samuel feels confused and distressed. He no longer knows what to believe. "And what do you want from me? Why are you telling me this?" The man gives a grim smile. "I am not your enemy, Thomas. I am merely an observer. And you, my young friend, are about to make a choice that will determine the future of your life. Your search for the truth will be more dangerous than you can imagine." Before Samuel can answer, the man disappears into the darkness of the building, leaving him alone with more questions than ever. Samuel clutches the photo tightly, his mind spinning with the revelations he has just heard. What should he do now? Continue the search for his father and face the danger, or accept the life he has been given and move on? However, the feeling that his life would never be the same again consumes him. He now knows there is a choice he must make. But what will be the price of that choice? What do you think Samuel should do next? Face the dangers and seek the truth about his father, or abandon that search and stay with the family that raised him? Leave your opinion in the comments. The impact of the man's words echoes in Samuel's mind as he leaves the abandoned building. He is in a whirlwind of emotions, a mixture of anger, confusion, and a growing sense that his life is about to change forever. The photo he held in his hands now seemed more like a symbol of everything he had lost, and at the same time, of everything he could gain if he moved on. When he returns home, the atmosphere seems even more oppressive. Richard and Margaret Clark are in the living room, as if they were expecting his arrival. Samuel notices his mother's worried look, but there's something different in his father's gaze. Richard is watching him with an intensity Samuel had never noticed before. Something is not right. "Where have you been, Samuel?" Richard asks, his voice stiffer than usual. Samuel hesitates, the weight of the revelation still heavy on his shoulders. He doesn't know how to respond. The truth is about to explode, but he still doesn't know if he's ready to face the consequences of telling everything. "I've been away," Samuel says, trying to avoid the truth for a while longer. "I need some time to think about everything I've discovered." Duh. But that's not enough for Richard, who gets up and walks over to Samuel with determined steps. "What do you know, Samuel? What's going on with you? I saw the look on your face. You've discovered something." Samuel felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew he could no longer hide the truth. He looked at his mother, who was now standing behind Richard, her expression more vulnerable than ever. She seemed to be waiting for an answer, as if she already knew that Samuel's secret had finally been revealed. "I know the truth, Dad," Samuel says with a firmness he himself did not expect. "I am not Samuel Clark. I am Thomas Radcliffe." The silence that follows is thick, almost palpable. Margaret is speechless, her eyes filling with tears. Richard, however, shows no surprise. He simply looks at Samuel with a serious expression and finally sits down again. "I knew this day would come," Richard says, his voice low but full of sorrow. "I knew you would find out the truth sooner or later. Thomas, you need to understand, I did what I did to protect you." Samuel is confused. "Protect? What do you mean? You hid the truth from me for years. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Richard takes a deep breath, his expression hardening. "When I found you, you were just a child. The situation was out of control, Thomas. There were people who wanted to kill you, people who were after your father, people who wanted you dead. I had no choice. I needed to hide you." Margaret, her voice breaking, finally speaks. I raised you, Samuel, because we love you, but this lie, it was eating us up inside. Samuel felt a knot tightening in his chest. He had always known something was wrong, but the reality of the situation was far darker than he could have imagined. He not only discovered that his life had been a lie, but now he realizes that his search for the truth has painful consequences for those he loves most. I don't know what to do with all this, Samuel says, feeling lost. I feel like my life has been stolen from me, but I don't know if I can move on with everything I've learned. Richard placed his hand on the table, trying to remain calm. I didn't want it to be this way, Thomas. But life doesn't always give you easy choices. Now you have two options: continue your search and face the dangers that come with it, or stay with us and try to rebuild your life. Samuel feels the weight of his father's words like a stone in his chest. He looks at the two of them, the pain in their eyes reflecting the pain in his own heart. He finds himself at a crossroads, and he doesn't know which path to take. His desire to find his father and understand his past is stronger than ever, but at the same time, he knows that this could destroy the life he has built with the Clarks. I need time, Samuel says, his voice faltering. I need time to think about all of this. He leaves the room, leaving his parents behind, but he can't shake the feeling that his decision will affect more than just his freedom. The lives of everyone around him are also at stake. Samuel is now at a crossroads. Should he continue his search for the truth, even knowing the damage it could cause his adoptive parents, or should he try to rebuild his life with the Clarks and leave the past behind? What would you do in his place? Comment below. The following days are a whirlwind of emotions for Samuel. He is torn between the desire to discover more about his true past and the weight of loyalty to the family that raised him. The pain of having his roots uprooted is profound, and he feels as if he is trying to balance a secret he cannot carry alone. Samuel decides to spend some time away from home, visiting the places his biological father, Thomas Radcliffe, used to frequent. He wanders through old New York landmarks, places he feels somehow a part of him, even without fully understanding why. The smell of the air, the sounds of the streets, the feeling of being in the middle of something big, all of this gives him a strange sense of belonging, but also of loss. He knows that nothing will be the same after his discovery. On one of these walks, Samuel comes across a small cafe, a coffee shop that seems to have come from another era. The place appears to have been forgotten by time, with dark wood furniture and a tranquil atmosphere far from the hustle and bustle of the city. Upon entering, he feels a calmness he hasn't experienced in a long time. An elderly gentleman who works at the cafe greets him with a kind smile, and Samuel sits at a table near the window. As he watches the busy street, his mind wanders in thought. The dilemma he faces is clear. Should he reconnect with his past and continue the search for answers, or should he focus on the future and the people who have always supported him? The feeling of being pulled into two distinct worlds is almost unbearable. He takes a deep breath and makes a decision that begins to shape his journey. He can't simply abandon everything he's learned, but he also can't ignore the pain his search has caused. Samuel understands that he needs time to grow, to understand himself, before making any other decisions. The true journey, he realizes, is not just about discovering his past, but about learning to reconcile who he is now with who he was. However, his experience at the cafe gives him a new perspective. He realizes that, however painful the search for truth may have been, it has made him grow in ways he never imagined. He now has a deeper understanding of himself, of his history, and this makes him stronger. But Samuel also knows that this strengthening does not come without a price. He has to confront his own weaknesses and limitations. Determined to return home and confront his family once more, Samuel begins to feel that there is something more important than his own personal answers. He needs to deal with the feelings of those around him. his adoptive parents, who have always treated him with love, and also with his own feelings of guilt and loss that arise with the weight of his discoveries. When he returns to the Clark's house, he finds the two of them in the living room, waiting for him. The tension in the air is almost palpable, but Samuel knows there's no escaping the truth anymore. He sits with them, taking a deep breath before speaking. "I don't have all the answers," Samuel begins, his voice firm but full of emotion. "But what I do know now is that my search for the truth can no longer control me. I need to learn to live with what I've discovered, without it destroying everything around me." Richard and Margaret look at him with a mixture of surprise and relief. They knew this moment would come, but perhaps they didn't know how much it would affect them as well. "You are my son, Samuel, no matter who gave birth to you." "We love you, and that will never change," says Richard, his voice softer than he used to be. Margaret also speaks, her words full of emotion. "You were always ours, Samuel, and even with everything you've discovered, you don't have to fight alone anymore. We are with you." Their words deeply touch Samuel. He knew his search for truth was important, but now he understands that love and acceptance are also essential. He begins to realize that perhaps the true journey is not just about who he is, but also about how he can reconnect with others and build something new from the ashes of the past. As night falls and the Clark family gathers around the table for a simple dinner, Samuel feels a weight being lifted from his shoulders. He may not have all the answers, but he knows that the future will be built from what he chooses to do now. He doesn't need to let his past define his life. He can move forward with his discoveries, with his truth, but also with the love and support of those who have always accepted him. Do you believe Samuel made the right choice in deciding to balance his search for truth with his relationship with the family that raised him? What would you do in his place? Leave your opinions in the comments. The sense of relief Samuel experiences upon reconciling his search for truth with the love and support of the Clark family is short-lived. Although he has made peace with his past and with the family that took him in, a sense of urgency still haunts him. He knows his journey is not over, and the shadows of the past are not willing to leave him in peace so easily. One afternoon, while Samuel revisits the documents he found about Thomas Radcliffe, he stumbles upon something new, an enigmatic letter written by his biological father. The letter, addressed to Samuel, speaks of a secret Thomas could never reveal while he was alive. The words are laden with profound weight, suggesting that the truth about Thomas Radcliffe's disappearance is directly linked to a greater threat. Samuel realizes, with a growing chill, that he is not only seeking answers about his origins, but is now being drawn into a web of conspiracies involving powerful enemies, and these people may be closer to him than he imagines. The letter also mentions one last clue, something crucial to unraveling what really happened to her father. The key to the mystery lies in New York, where it all began. Don't let them find you before you understand what really happened. These words echo in his mind like a warning. He needs to act quickly. What did Thomas Radcliffe mean by, "Don't let them find you"? Samuel has no idea, but he feels the answer is right there in New York, waiting to be discovered. He can no longer ignore the feeling that he is being watched. In recent weeks, he has noticed mysterious figures circulating through the streets of his neighborhood and sensed that something dangerous is lurking. The city, once a familiar place, now seems like a labyrinth full of hidden threats. Samuel begins to question the true extent of the threat his biological father tried to conceal. While talking to Jacob, he senses that their friendship is being affected by Samuel's growing paranoia. Jacob tries once again to convince Samuel to leave the past behind and live a peaceful life. "You already have everything you need, Samuel. Your parents, your friends. Why keep getting into trouble? You're changing, man." But Samuel can't turn back now. He knows the only way to understand who he truly is to face the truth. And to do that, he needs to follow the last trail left by Thomas Radcliffe, even if it means putting everything he loves at risk. Back at the Clark home, tensions reach their peak. Samuel is determined to leave for New York in search of the final answers. Richard, though worried, knows he can't stop him. "If you go, be careful, Thomas," he says, the use of his real name now being an implicit acceptance of everything Samuel has discovered. "No matter what you find, remember that we're here for you, always." Samuel feels the weight of these words, but his destiny is clear. He must face what is to come, whatever the cost. On the eve of his departure, he finds himself alone in his room, gazing at the horizon through the window. The city he has always considered home now seems strange and distant. He feels he is moving away from everything he knew, but at the same time, he is drawing closer to the truth. He grabs a small suitcase, packing only the essentials, and prepares for what lies ahead. He knows that by making this decision, his life will never be the same. The journey that began with a simple search for the truth has now turned into a race against time, with unknown enemies ready to do anything to keep the secret buried. But Samuel is ready to face what lies ahead. What do you think Samuel will find in New York? Will he finally discover the truth about his father and his origins, or will the danger be greater than he imagines? Leave your theories in the comments. Samuel arrives in New York with his heart racing and his mind full of questions. The city seems like a labyrinth of concrete and shadows, a place where past and present intertwine in a dance of mystery and tension. He knows he's in dangerous territory, but the need to uncover the truth about his biological father, Thomas Radcliffe, and the secret he hides is stronger than his fear. Upon arriving at the location indicated in his father's letter, Samuel finds himself before an old building, hidden among other structures. The place is not grand, but rather a simple-looking structure, without many windows and with heavy iron doors. A feeling of unease washes over him as he approaches, as if something is wrong, as if the city itself is watching him. He enters cautiously, the dim light of old lamps illuminating his path as he moves forward. The building seems deserted, but Samuel senses something is there. Something awaits him. The atmosphere is dense, heavy with a mystery he is about to unravel. He walks down the empty corridors until, turning a corner, he comes upon a secret door, only slightly ajar. He takes a deep breath and, with a trembling hand, pushes the door open. Inside the room, the light is more intense. The place is a makeshift office, filled with papers and documents scattered everywhere. Samuel feels a mixture of relief and apprehension. He is closer than ever to understanding the truth about Thomas Radcliffe, but he also knows that the final discovery may be more dangerous than he imagines. In the center of the room, there is a table full of old papers. Next to it, a tall man in a dark suit sits, observing Samuel with a penetrating gaze. He doesn't seem surprised by Samuel's presence, as if he already knew he was coming. The man smiles, but his smile is cold and calculating. "I was expecting you, Thomas," the man says in a deep voice. "Or should I call you Samuel?" Samuel feels the weight of the words, as if the man were revealing something he wasn't yet ready to know. He doesn't respond immediately, but his gaze is fixed on the pile of papers in front of him. The man continues. "I am Victor Hayes," he says, rising from his chair, "and everything you're looking for is here. The truth about your father, about why he disappeared. It's all recorded in my files, but you're about to discover something far greater than you imagine." Samuel remains silent, his mind racing with the implications of what is being revealed. He feels he is on the verge of a great revelation, but he doesn't know if he is ready for what is to come. The man seems to sense Samuel's inner conflict and steps forward, extending a sealed envelope. "This is your legacy, Thomas," Hayes says, placing the envelope on the table. "Inside this envelope are the answers you've been searching for, but be careful what you discover. What you know so far is just the tip of the iceberg. Your father was involved in something much bigger than you could imagine, something involving powerful figures in New York. The truth could shatter everything you believed to be real. Samuel feels his adrenaline surge. He knew the mystery surrounding his father wouldn't be simple, but now he realizes he's dealing with something far bigger than a mere disappearance. The man before him isn't just someone who knows his father, but someone directly involved in the power games and manipulation that have surrounded Thomas Radcliffe's life. With trembling hands, Samuel picks up the envelope. The decision to open it is difficult, as if he were about to open a door to a world of truths he may not be able to face. But he can't turn back. He's come a long way, and now the only thing left is to find out what really happened. He breaks the seal and, holding his breath, opens the envelope. Inside, he finds a series of documents and a handwritten letter. He begins to read, each word making his heart pound. The letter reveals the true story of Thomas Radcliffe. He not only disappeared to protect himself, but became entangled in a web of corruption and crime that touched the highest echelons of society. His father had been involved in a conspiracy that threatened not only his life, but Samuel's as well. The letter ends with a final warning. They know you're here, Thomas. They always have. And now they're closer than ever. At that moment, Samuel felt the weight of the truth crushing him. He wasn't just searching for answers about his past. He was unknowingly becoming part of a much larger plot, something that could destroy not only his life, but also the lives of the people he loved. What do you think Samuel will do with these new revelations? Should he fight against these powerful forces or flee before it's too late? Leave your theories in the comments. The revelation about Thomas Radcliffe's true legacy left Samuel in a state of utter shock. What seemed like a simple search for answers about his past has now turned into a race for survival, and he finds himself embroiled in a game of power and manipulation that surpasses anything he could have imagined. With the envelope in his hands, Samuel takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of the words written by his father. The powerful figures after him were not just ghosts of the past, but living, active, influential people with resources and connections everywhere. He is now at the center of a corruption plot involving some of the most powerful figures in New York, and the threat hanging over him is real and immeasurable. But amidst the chaos, something within Samuel changes. He realizes that, however dangerous it might be to move forward, he couldn't give up now. The truth, however devastating, needed to be revealed. His father sacrificed his own life to protect him, but Samuel knew that the sacrifice couldn't be in vain. He couldn't allow this story to be buried again, just as he couldn't ignore the impact his discoveries would have on the people he loved. As he leaves the building where the truth was revealed, Samuel feels the weight of his past finally beginning to dissipate. The decision is made. He will not run away anymore. The story of his father, of his own life, will not be erased. He will fight, and in doing so, he will not only be able to confront the enemies at his door, but also finally understand who he truly is. When Samuel returns to the Clark home, his family is waiting, worried by his silence and absence. Richard and Margaret, with tired faces and heavy hearts, greet him without words. They know he has finally faced the truth, but they also know he has changed. The boy who left in search of his past is now a man carrying a heavy burden, and what comes next will be even more complicated than anyone could have imagined. "I found what I was looking for," says Samuel, his voice calm but heavy with deep pain. "But the truth isn't something we can simply carry alone. And I'm not going to do that to you." Margaret hugs him, saying nothing, but understanding that no matter what happens, he will always be part of her family. Richard, in turn, offers a silent look, the kind of look that speaks louder than 1,000 words. In the end, Samuel knows his journey is not over. He is now a man torn between two worlds, the one he knew and the one he is about to create. But he also knows that deep down, His true battle is not only against the enemies who hunt him, but against the very truths he must accept in order to move forward. Do you think Samuel made the right decision in facing the truth, even knowing the danger it represents? What do you think the future holds for him now? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Did you enjoy this journey full of mysteries and revelations? Don't forget to share your opinion in the comments. What do you think Samuel will do next? And what part of the story surprised you the most? If you're curious to know more about what happens to him, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all the updates. Your participation is very important to us. Share with your friends and help us spread this story to more people. Until next time,